Unlock your brain's full potential with 12 powerful critical thinking hacks. This practical guide helps you overcome mental traps, improve decision-making, and boost clarity in a noisy world. Whether you're solving problems or making life choices, these exercises will rewire your thinking for success, speed, and smarter living.
Introduction. Ever feel like your brain is overloaded, yet you still miss what truly matters? You scroll endlessly, absorb tons of information, but when it's time to decide, solve, or lead, your mind goes blank or second guesses itself. You're not alone. We live in a noisy world designed to distract, manipulate, and overwhelm. That's why critical thinking isn't just a skill, it's a survival tool. This book isn't about abstract theory, it's a hands-on guide to 12 powerful thinking hacks that will rewire your brain to think smarter, faster, and clearer in everyday life. Whether you're a student, entrepreneur, leader, or just tired of overthinking and indecision, this book will upgrade how you observe, decide, and act. Ready to unlock the power of your mind? Don't forget to subscribe or follow for more insights and exercises, because this is just the beginning. Let's get started.
Chapter 1. The Mind Matrix. Rewiring How You Think. Have you ever made a decision and later wondered, what was I thinking? Or reacted in the heat of the moment only to regret it? You're not alone. The truth is, most of our thinking happens on autopilot, shaped by years of habits, assumptions, and mental shortcuts. The first step to becoming a sharper thinker is understanding that your thoughts are not always your own. They're often echoes of patterns you didn't choose. But here's the good news. You can change that. You can rewire your mind to think with greater clarity, intention, and control. Welcome to the Mind Matrix, the internal operating system that governs how you interpret the world, make decisions, solve problems, and ultimately shape your life. If your thoughts are the software, then your brain is the hardware. And just like any outdated system, it can be upgraded. Understanding your thought patterns. Your brain processes around 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. Most of these thoughts aren't original. They're recycled patterns. These patterns are what psychologists call schemas, mental frameworks that help us interpret information quickly. While useful, they can also trap us into seeing the world a certain way, even when that way is outdated, unhelpful, or wrong. Let's take a simple example. If you failed a math test in school and were told, "You're just not good at math," that thought may have embedded itself into your internal belief system. Over time, you might avoid opportunities that require numbers, data, or logic, not because you can't, but because your mind believes you can't. This is the danger of flawed mental loops. These loops often show up as cognitive biases, distortions in thinking that lead to poor decisions. For instance, confirmation bias makes you seek information that supports what you already believe, while ignoring what contradicts it. Anchoring bias causes you to rely too heavily on the first piece of information you get. Negativity bias focuses your mind more on bad outcomes than good ones, even if both are equally likely. When left unchecked, these biases create mental blind spots. You think you're seeing clearly, but in reality, you're walking through life with a mental filter that distorts the truth. Why we think the way we do. The way you think is the result of both neurobiology and environment. From childhood, your brain wires itself in response to your experiences. If you grew up in a high-stress environment, for example, your brain may have developed a bias towards fear, threat detection, and rapid emotional response. On the other hand, a stable and supportive upbringing might have fostered curiosity, patience, and critical analysis. But here's what's revolutionary. Your brain is plastic, not like a toy, but in the sense of neuroplasticity, its ability to change, adapt, and rewire itself based on new inputs and experiences. This means that your current thinking patterns are not fixed. You are not a prisoner of your past. You can train your brain to think in more strategic, logical, and empowering ways. Think of it like this. If your brain is a jungle, then your thought patterns are trails. The more often you walk a trail, a certain thought or belief, the more worn it becomes. Eventually, your brain takes that trail automatically. But when you start walking new paths, new ways of thinking, you create fresh trails, and over time, those become your new default. Rewiring the mind, a conscious process. Rewiring your brain isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It begins with awareness. The moment you become aware that your thoughts are not facts, but merely suggestions, you take back your power. Instead of reacting, you start choosing. That's where critical thinking begins. Here are 4 proven tools to help you start rewiring your mental matrix. Number 1, the pattern interrupt. This is a simple but powerful technique used in psychology to disrupt automatic responses. When you notice yourself slipping into a negative or limiting thought loop, interrupt it deliberately. For example, say, pause out loud. Clap your hands. Take 3 deep breaths. Ask, is this thought helpful or harmful? This physical and mental disruption gives you a brief window to insert a new thought. Number 2, cognitive reframing. This tool allows you to change how you perceive a situation. Suppose you think, I always fail under pressure. Instead, you can reframe it as, pressure challenges me to grow, and I'm learning to handle it better each time. Reframing doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means shifting from a disempowered lens to an empowered one. Your brain listens to the words you repeat. Choose them wisely. Number 3, the 3-layer thinking exercise. This is a powerful technique for gaining clarity. Surface level, what's happening? Fact. Interpretation level, what does it mean? Belief. Core level, what does it say about me or the world? Identity. Example, you didn't get a job you applied for. Surface, I didn't get hired. Interpretation, they didn't think I was good enough. Core, maybe I'm just not capable of success. Catch yourself at each level. Is it fact or story? This exercise helps you break the chain of false narratives that hold you back. Number 4, mental decluttering. Just like a cluttered room creates anxiety, a mental mind creates chaos. Start each day with 10 minutes of mental clarity journaling. Ask, what thoughts are dominating my mind today? Which ones are useful? Which ones can I let go of? This process sharpens focus, clears emotional fog, and resets your mindset before the day begins. Building a new default mode. Most people spend their lives thinking on default. They wake up and their mind instantly jumps into stress, to-do lists, or replaying yesterday's worries. But what if your default mode was clarity? What if your natural response to problems was curiosity, not panic? This is what rewiring does. It installs a new operating system. Over time, your default thoughts become more balanced, less reactive, and more strategic. You stop jumping to conclusions. You pause. You analyze. You think. And as your thinking improves, so does your life. Here's the secret most people never hear. You don't rise to the level of your potential, you fall to the level of your thinking. That's why this chapter is the foundation for the rest of the book. Why this matters for your success? In today's world, information is cheap, but clear thinking is rare. Those who can control their mind, process complexity, and make intelligent decisions rise faster in any field. Whether you're building a career, starting a business, or managing relationships, the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your results. Great thinkers aren't born. They're trained. They've learned how to slow down their thoughts, question assumptions, and build mental habits that support clarity over confusion, truth over emotion, strategy over impulse. That's what this book is here to help you do. We don't just want to give you ideas, we want to help you install them into your daily life. We want you to become a thinker, not just a follower. someone who can navigate problems with precision, respond to challenges with calm logic, and lead others by example. Final words. Begin the rewire. Rewiring your brain doesn't happen overnight, but every time you question a bias, break a pattern, or choose a higher thought, you're doing it. You're sculpting a stronger, faster, smarter mind. And remember, the goal isn't to think more, it's to think better. As we move into the next chapters, you'll learn specific mental exercises to improve your reasoning, filter out manipulation, ask smarter questions, and make faster decisions without losing clarity.
Chapter 2. Logic over Emotion, Mastering Rational Control. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment, only to regret it seconds later? Or made a decision based purely on how you felt, only to realize later that it wasn't the smartest move? We all have, because we're human. But that doesn't mean we have to stay trapped in emotional chaos. The truth is, emotions are not your enemy. They're signals, important ones. But if you let them take the wheel, especially during critical decisions, they'll often steer you in the wrong direction. On the other hand, pure logic without emotional awareness makes you cold, disconnected, and sometimes even unkind. The real power lies in mastering the balance. This chapter is not about suppressing emotions. It's about learning how to think clearly in spite of emotions. It's not learning to pause, evaluate, and choose your response not based on emotional impulse, but on rational control. Let's begin by understanding what's actually going on inside your brain when emotions and logic go head-to-head. The brain's two processing systems, feel versus think. Your brain has two primary processing systems. System 1, emotional brain, fast, automatic, instinctive. This includes gut feelings, emotional reactions, and snap judgments. System 2, rational brain, slow, deliberate, analytical. This is where logical reasoning, planning, and decision-making happen. The emotional brain, also known as the limbic system, developed long before the logical brain. It's great for survival. It kept our ancestors alive by detecting threats and triggering instant responses like fight, flight, or freeze. But in the modern world, where threats are less about predators and more about emails, relationships, and job interviews, this fast system often misfires. You might get angry at a simple disagreement, or panic before a presentation, or feel rejected from a single unanswered message. The problem is, when emotion kicks in first, it often hijacks your rational thinking. You feel before you think. That's why developing the habit of pausing to engage logic is one of the most powerful things you can do for your personal growth, relationships, career, and success. Why emotions sabotage reasoning? Here's a powerful truth. What you feel is not always what is real. When you're emotionally triggered, your brain's prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and analytical analysis, is literally less active. At the same time, your amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional response, fires up like a warning siren. This is called amygdala hijack, where your brain is flooded with emotion and your logic shuts down. You're likely to say things you don't mean, make poor decisions, or fall for manipulation. Marketing and politics are experts at triggering emotions for control. You can't eliminate emotional reactions completely, nor should you. But you can train your mind to recognize emotional spikes early, pause, and choose a better response. This is how logical thinkers stay calm under pressure and win in the long game. The art of the pause, building a thinking gap. Before emotion becomes action, there is a tiny gap. Most people miss it, but those who master critical thinking learn to stretch that gap, turning milliseconds into mindful seconds. This is where you gain control. When something triggers you, an insult, fear, failure, don't act immediately. Just pause, breathe, observe. Here's a simple tool to help you. The STOP technique. S, stop. Freeze the urge to react. Don't move forward until you've engaged your awareness. T, take a breath. Breathing calms your nervous system and signals your brain that you're safe. O, observe. What am I feeling? What thoughts are running through my head? What story am I telling myself? P. Proceed mindfully. Now that you've observed, choose your response intentionally, not emotionally. This tool alone can help you avoid countless arguments, impulsive decisions, and emotional regrets. It buys you time to let your logical brain catch up. But once you've paused, how do you think better? That's where reasoning techniques come in. Socratic questioning. Think like a philosopher. Socrates, one of history's greatest thinkers, believed that the way to truth wasn't giving answers, but asking better questions. This technique is a goldmine for mastering logic over emotion. The next time you're emotionally overwhelmed, ask yourself, what's the evidence for this feeling? Is this always true or just in this moment? What else might be going on here? Am I assuming something without proof? What would I say to a friend in the same situation? These questions pull your mind out of reactive emotion and into analytical reasoning. Instead of being consumed by your feelings, you become curious about them. That's when you take back control. Emotional triggers. Know thyself. Every person has emotional hot buttons, specific situations that trigger strong reactions. Maybe it's criticism, being ignored, feeling disrespected, or being told no. These triggers are often tied to core wounds or past experiences. For example, someone who grew up being rejected might overreact to even small signs of being left out. You can't master logic over emotion until you identify your triggers. Action step: emotional audit.
Take 5 minutes and write down 3 situations where you lost control or reacted emotionally. What triggered the reaction? What thought followed the emotion? How would you respond differently using logic? Doing this regularly builds emotional intelligence and trains your brain to spot patterns. Awareness is the first layer of control. Balancing logic and empathy. Let's be clear. This chapter isn't asking you to become a robot. Emotions are important. They give life color. They connect us to others. They tell us what matters. But logic provides the structure. Think of logic as the steering wheel and emotion as the fuel. One without the other makes you either stuck or reckless. When you combine both, you become a master driver. This balance is especially important in communication and leadership. For example, logic tells you what needs to be said. Emotion tells you how to say it so people listen. Great leaders don't suppress emotions, they manage them. They know when to show empathy, when to stay calm under pressure, and when to let logic guide the final decision. You can do the same. How to build the logical mindset. Building a logical mindset is like building a muscle. It takes reps. Here are 5 practical habits to strengthen it. 1. Practice what-if scenarios. Before reacting, mentally rehearse other perspectives. What if they didn't mean it the way I took it? What if I'm wrong? What if I waited 10 minutes before replying? This shifts your brain into perspective thinking, reducing emotional bias. 2. Use the 10-10-10 rule. Ask yourself, will this matter in 10 minutes? In 10 days? In 10 years? This technique helps you escape short-term emotional traps and see the bigger picture. 3. Write before you react. Before sending that angry message or quitting something in frustration, write it out. Don't send it. Just write it. This acts as a vent, clears emotional fog, and allows logic to step in. Often, you'll feel completely different after. 4. Debate with yourself. Actively argue against your emotional reaction. I feel like quitting, but have I given it enough time? Is this discomfort or actual harm?
Would I advise someone else to quit in the same situation? This internal dialogue activates your reasoning center and increases self-regulation. 5. Read or watch something rational daily. Expose your brain to logic-rich material, books, articles, thinkers, debates. Just like junk food affects your body, junk thoughts affect your brain. Feed it well. How this chapter transforms your thinking. Once you master the ability to slow down, question your emotional responses, and act with clarity, you become dangerous in the best way. People will wonder how you stay so calm, how you make smart decisions, how you don't get dragged into drama or panic. Here's the truth. Logic gives you power. Emotion gives you connection. When you master both, you become unstoppable. From now on, every challenge is an opportunity to practice, pausing before reacting, questioning your assumptions, reframing your thoughts, responding with calm, not chaos. This is what separates impulsive minds from powerful ones. Final thoughts. Emotion is the signal. Logic is the map. Remember, your emotions are valid, but not always accurate. They're messengers, not masters. Let them speak, but don't let them drive. Train yourself to observe emotions as signals. Then activate your rational mind to decide what comes next. This is how you protect your peace, make wise decisions, and lead yourself and others to a smarter, more stable life. This is how logic becomes your superpower. Next, in Chapter 3, you'll discover how to ask the right questions that unlock clarity, expose false beliefs, and sharpen your critical thinking like a laser. Let's continue.
Chapter 3. The Question Habit. Asking to unlock clarity. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you challenged your own thoughts? Not someone else's, not your friends or the internet's, your own. Most people don't question what they think. They just believe it. They let old assumptions, biased information, and emotional interpretations rule their mind without ever interrogating where those ideas came from. Here's what separates average thinkers from extraordinary ones. Great thinkers don't seek more answers, they ask better questions. If you want to think smarter and faster, you don't need more data, you need deeper inquiry. You need to build the habit of asking sharp, layered, challenging, even uncomfortable questions that cut through confusion and bring clarity, insight, and truth. That's what this chapter is all about, turning your brain into a question-asking machine. Because every mental breakthrough you'll ever have begins with a question. Why questions matter more than answers. We live in an age of information. You can Google any answer in 5 seconds. But here's the problem. Answers are everywhere. Insight is not. It's not answers that change your thinking. It's questions that change your direction. In fact, many of the world's greatest inventions, solutions, and discoveries started with a single, simple question. What if gravity wasn't the only force at play? Why do we always follow this rule? What happens if we flip this assumption upside down? Whether you're an entrepreneur, student, artist, parent, or leader, your ability to ask better questions determines your ability to solve complex problems, see hidden opportunities, and grow beyond mental limitations. In short, the quality of your questions determines the quality of your thinking. Now let's build that quality step by step. The problem with surface-level thinking. Most people operate in surface-level thinking. They ask questions like, why is this happening to me? What if I fail? Who's to blame? Notice the pattern? These are reactive, shallow, or defensive questions. They lead to more confusion, anxiety, or victimhood.
Compare those with, what can I learn from this? What assumptions am I making here? How might I be contributing to this situation? These questions are deeper. They create clarity and ownership. They open your mind instead of closing it. The point is, if you want better results in life, you need better mental questions. The 3-layer questioning framework. To help you build your critical questioning habit, I've developed a simple yet powerful tool: Surface, Strategic, Soul. Let's break it down. 1. Surface-level questions. These deal with what happened, the visible facts, outcomes, or events. Examples: what went wrong here? What was said? What's the current situation? These questions are important for awareness, but they're just the first step. They help you understand what is, but they don't help you understand why or how to change it. Exercise. Next time something frustrates or confuses you, write down 3 surface-level questions. Get clarity on the facts before diving deeper. 2. Strategic questions. These go 1 layer deeper. They analyze why it happened or what can be done about it. Examples: what patterns are repeating here? What's the root cause of this issue? What are my options moving forward? What's the cost of not solving this? Strategic questions move your brain into problem-solving and pattern recognition mode. They challenge assumptions and make space for better decisions. Exercise. Take a situation in your life that feels stuck. Write 3 strategic questions that would help you see it differently. Then answer them honestly. 3. Soul-level questions. These are the deepest, most transformative questions. They deal with identity, meaning, values, and belief systems. Examples: what does this situation reveal about me? What belief is driving my reaction?
Is this story I'm telling myself true or just familiar? What am I really afraid of here? Soul-level questions are uncomfortable. They push past the ego. But this is where the real breakthroughs happen. This is where you discover what's underneath your thinking and where you gain the power to change it. Exercise. When facing emotional discomfort, pause and ask, what am I avoiding by not asking deeper questions? Write your answer. Sit with it. This is where clarity lives. Brick. How to break mental walls with questions. Most mental limitations are self-built walls, stories we keep telling ourselves without even realizing it. For example, I'm just not creative. People always leave. I never get things right the first time. That's just how I am. Every time you make a limiting statement like this, flip it into a question. What if I am creative in a way I've never seen before? Is it true that people always leave, or am I seeing through a biased lens? What can I learn when things don't go right the first time? This technique is called question flipping. It disarms negative narratives and turns them into exploration. The more you do it, the more flexible and open your thinking becomes. H. How questions train the brain. When you ask questions, especially deep ones, you activate a brain system called the default mode network. This part of your brain lights up during reflection, creativity, and insight. You also engage prefrontal regions responsible for reasoning and judgment. Over time, this trains your mind to default to thinking before reacting and analyzing before assuming. Questions literally change your neural wiring. So every time you pause and ask a question, instead of reacting impulsively, you're not just thinking better, you're rewiring your brain to think better as a habit. Stop. Warning. Beware of biased questions. Not all questions are created equal. Some questions actually reinforce mental traps. For example, why do I always mess things up? What's wrong with me? Why don't people like me? These are leading questions. They assume a negative answer before you even reflect.
Your brain wants to solve problems, so it will look for evidence to support even a false premise. Instead, challenge yourself to reframe such questions into empowering ones. What can I do differently next time? What's one strength I can lean on in this situation? How can I connect more meaningfully with others? Good questions expand your thinking. Bad ones shrink it. Recycle. Everyday mental reprogramming exercise. Want to build the question habit into your daily routine? Try this. Write the daily 3Q journal. Every morning or evening, answer these 3 prompts. What did I notice today? Observation. Surface. What can I learn from it? Insight. Strategy. What does this mean about me or what I value? Reflection. Soul. This simple journaling habit rewires your brain for layered thinking. You'll begin to spot patterns, uncover hidden assumptions, and sharpen your clarity in just a few days. Brain. Thinking in layers, not lines. Linear thinking is shallow. It follows a straight line from input to output. It's quick, but not deep. Layered thinking, on the other hand, explores context, cause, consequence, and identity. It digs into why, what else, and what next. This is where innovation, empathy, and insight live. When you train your brain to ask layered questions, you become a more strategic, flexible, and emotionally intelligent thinker. You see not just the action, but the motivation. Not just the mistake, but the pattern. Not just the question, but the question beneath the question. This is next-level thinking.
Chapter 4. The Filter Code. Spotting Lies, Bias, and Bullshit. Have you ever believed something that later turned out to be completely false? Maybe it was a viral news story, a misleading advertisement, a social media post, or even something a trusted person told you. And when the truth came out, you thought, how did I fall for that? You're not alone. We live in an era where information is endless, but truth is rare. We're surrounded by opinions disguised as facts, headlines crafted to manipulate emotion, and algorithms designed to show us what we want to see, not what's real. That's why developing a mental filter, a personal system to separate fact from fiction, clarity from confusion, isn't just useful, it's essential. This chapter is your training ground. Welcome to The Filter Code, your toolkit for spotting lies, decoding bias, and protecting your mind from the daily flood of BS that most people never question. Let's begin. Target. Why filtering is the new intelligence. In the past, intelligence was about what you knew. Today, intelligence is about what you can verify. We don't suffer from a lack of information anymore. We suffer from too much, and most of it is noisy, shallow, biased, or just plain false. If you don't have a mental system to evaluate what you're consuming, you'll absorb misinformation, form distorted worldviews, and make poor decisions based on lies. The most successful, rational, and powerful thinkers of this generation will not be those who know the most. They will be the ones who know how to think clearly in a world designed to confuse them. And that starts with building your BS detector. Red flags. How to spot manipulation early. Before we dive into strategies, let's break down common red flags that should instantly alert your inner critical thinker. 1. Emotional extremes. If something makes you instantly angry, afraid, or outraged, pause. Manipulators, especially in media and politics, use emotional triggers to bypass your logic. It's called emotional hijacking, and it works frighteningly well. Ask yourself, why do they want me to feel this strongly? What might I not be seeing? 2.
absolute language. Be cautious with statements that include phrases like, "Everyone knows that," "This always happens," "There's no other explanation." The world is rarely that black and white. Truth often lives in nuance. Absolute statements are often cover-ups for weak arguments. 3. Lack of source or evidence. If someone can't point to where the information came from, or they cite vague, unverifiable sources like "studies show" or "experts say," it's likely just noise. Remember, if it can't be tested, traced, or challenged, it's probably not truth. 4. Ad hominem attacks. If a person attacks someone's character instead of their idea, it's a distraction. This is a classic logical fallacy. Don't fall for it. Focus on the argument, not the personality. Brain, the psychology of why we believe nonsense. Before we judge others for believing lies, we need to understand ourselves. Why do smart people believe dumb things? Here are 3 psychological biases that make us vulnerable. 1. Confirmation bias. We tend to believe information that confirms what we already believe and ignore information that challenges us. If you think something is true, your brain will actively look for supporting evidence, even if it's false, and reject anything that contradicts it. This is why echo chambers exist and why they're so dangerous. Fix. Actively seek out opposing viewpoints. Ask, "What if I'm wrong?" 2. Authority bias. We're more likely to believe someone if they appear credible, wear a suit, or have a title, regardless of the facts. Marketers know this. Influencers use it. So do con artists. Fix. Separate the message from the messenger. Don't be seduced by image. Ask, "What evidence supports this?" 3. Social proof. If everyone else believes something, we tend to believe it too. It's a survival instinct, like, if the group accepts this, it must be true. But crowds can be wrong. Herd mentality leads to mass delusion. Fix. Ask, "Would I still believe this if no one else did?" Building your mental filter. The 5-step filter code. Now let's build your internal BS filter. Use this 5-step system whenever you encounter information you're unsure about. 1. Pause and identify the intent. Ask, "Why is this being shared with me? What's the agenda?" Every piece of content has a purpose, whether it's to inform, sell, persuade, or provoke. If something triggers a strong emotional reaction, that's a clue. Stop and assess. Is this fact, opinion, or manipulation? 2. Trace the source. Where did the information come from? Who is the original source? Are they credible? Check. Is the data from a peer-reviewed study? Is the quote real? Is the statistic backed by transparent research? If the chain of evidence breaks anywhere, don't trust the claim. 3. Cross-check the facts. Look for at least 2 to 3 independent sources that confirm the same information. Don't rely on one post, article, or video. If the information can't be scrutinized across multiple perspectives, it's not reliable.
Learn to spot these common thinking traps. Straw man, misrepresenting an argument to attack it more easily. False dilemma, presenting only 2 options when more exist. Slippery slope, assuming one action will lead to extreme consequences. Appeal to emotion, using fear or sympathy instead of logic. The more fallacies you learn, the sharper your filter becomes. 5. Ask clarifying questions. Good questions expose bad logic. Try, what's the evidence for this claim? Is this based on data or just opinion? What perspective is missing here? What would make this claim false? Asking clarifying questions disarms manipulation and builds mental clarity. Digital hygiene. Filtering in the age of social media. Social media is a bias amplifier. Algorithms show you more of what you already believe and less of what challenges you. This creates mental bubbles that shrink your thinking. Here's how to protect your filter in digital spaces. Follow people with different views than yours. Verify posts before sharing them. Spend more time reading long-form content and less time on headlines. Unfollow accounts that thrive on outrage or misinformation. Your brain becomes what you feed it. Feed it truth, not noise. Real-life scenarios practicing the filter code. Scenario 1. The viral statistic. You see a post claiming 98% of people regret going to college. It's viral. You feel shocked. Filter response. Where's the source? Is it peer-reviewed data or just a viral opinion? What's the context? Who benefits from spreading this message? Most likely, no verified source, misleading data, or personal agenda. Political argument. A friend says, "That candidate is dangerous. Everyone knows they're corrupt." Filter response. What do you mean by dangerous? What specific actions or policies are you referring to? Can you show me a source? By asking calmly, you expose whether their belief is based on emotion, hearsay, or actual facts. Sales pitch. An ad promises guaranteed results in 7 days or your money back. Filter response. Is there fine print? Are the testimonials verified? Is there real science or just marketing language? By applying the filter code, you reduce the odds of being scammed. How filtering improves your life. When you train your mind to detect bias, lies, and false logic, here's what happens. You make better decisions because they're rooted in truth. You save time and energy by avoiding drama and misinformation. You protect your mental peace in a noisy world. You become the person others trust for clarity and wisdom. Most importantly, you think for yourself. And in a world that constantly tries to think for you, that's a rare and powerful skill. Final words. Be the filter, not the funnel. Let's be honest. We can't control the flood of information that hits us every day. But we can control what we accept, believe, and act on. Think of your brain like a high-level security system. You don't let everything in just because it knocked on the door. You ask, who are you? Why are you here? Can I trust you? And only then do you open the door. This is the mindset of a critical thinker. From this point forward, whenever someone throws a statistic, headline, quote, claim, or opinion your way, don't just absorb it. Question it. Investigate it. Filter it. Because the sharper your mental filter, the clearer your thinking becomes, and the more immune you are to the mental traps that keep the world confused. Ready for the next level? In Chapter 5, we'll explore how to boost the speed of your thinking without sacrificing clarity, so you can make smart, high-stakes decisions in less time. Let's continue.
Chapter 5. Rapid Reasoning. Speed up without slipping up. You've probably had moments when someone asked you something unexpected and your mind just froze. No words, no logic, just mental static. Or maybe you've been stuck in decision paralysis, weighing every option for hours or days, only to still feel unsure. It's frustrating, right? In today's fast-moving world, we don't just need deep thinking. We need fast, smart thinking.
Whether you're in a business meeting, solving a personal problem, writing under a deadline, or answering a difficult question on the spot, your ability to think quickly and clearly can set you apart in every area of life. This chapter is about speeding up your mind without losing control. Because fast thinking isn't just about reacting, it's about responding with clarity, precision, and confidence. You'll learn how to process information quickly, make better decisions under pressure, and avoid the traps of overthinking or impulsive mistakes. Let's dive into rapid reasoning, your new mental advantage. Fast thinking versus reckless thinking. There's a huge difference between quick decisions and thoughtless decisions. Speed is not the enemy, sloppiness is. We often equate fast thinking with poor thinking, but that's only true when it's untrained. A skilled mind can be both swift and smart, like a martial artist who reacts in milliseconds, but with perfect accuracy. What we want to build here is mental agility, the ability to pivot, respond, solve, and decide without hesitation, but with structure. Imagine being able to answer tough questions without rambling, make decisions without doubting yourself for hours, react to challenges without being overwhelmed. That's what this chapter will train you to do. Why your brain slows down and how to speed it up. Let's get scientific for a moment. Your brain has two main modes of thinking. System 1, fast thinking, automatic, intuitive, emotional, based on experience. System 2, slow thinking, deliberate, logical, effortful, analytical. You need both, but under pressure, like in a job interview, debate, negotiation, or argument, System 1 dominates. If it's not trained, it panics, freezes, or relies on emotion. However, with practice, you can train System 1 to become smarter and faster. This is what top athletes, decision makers, and critical thinkers do. They build mental muscle memory through repetition and structure. Let's explore how. Technique 1. Chunking. Think in units, not chaos. Chunking is a method where you group information into meaningful clusters so your brain can process more faster. Instead of trying to remember or analyze 20 separate ideas, your brain can deal with 3 to 5 well-structured chunks. Example, when you hear a 10-digit number like 294-8762091, it's hard to recall. But if you chunk it into 294-876-2091, it becomes easier. In reasoning, the same applies. Let's say you're analyzing a business problem. Don't look at all 20 variables at once. Chunk them into customer factors, financial constraints, product or service flaws, market competition. Now your brain only has to juggle 4 categories instead of 20 random facts. Action step. Whatever you're analyzing, break it into 3 to 5 core themes or categories. Write them down. Group your thoughts under each. This massively reduces overload and improves processing speed. Technique 2. Pattern spotting. Train your brain like a detective. Smart thinkers don't always analyze more, they just recognize faster. They've trained their brain to see patterns, just like a chess master who can predict 5 moves ahead because they've seen thousands of games before. Pattern spotting helps you anticipate problems, identify repeating mistakes, see connections others miss. How to build it? Start asking yourself, have I seen this before? What type of problem is this? What does this situation remind me of? This triggers your memory and intuition to work with your logic instead of against it. Real-world example, a seasoned investor can smell a financial scam in seconds, not because they analyze every number, but because they've trained their mind to detect warning signs. You can build that same skill with practice. Technique 3. Mind mapping. Visual thinking for speed and structure. When you're overwhelmed with ideas, your brain slows down. Mind mapping allows you to lay everything out visually, making it easier to connect, prioritize, and act. It helps you see the whole picture at once, rather than bouncing between scattered thoughts. Here's how. Write the main topic in the center of a page. Draw branches outward for each subtopic or factor. Keep it loose. Use single keywords, symbols, or short notes. This works beautifully when planning projects, solving complex problems, brainstorming ideas, or studying large topics. Bonus: mind maps activate both hemispheres of your brain, creative and logical, which enhances your overall reasoning speed. Technique 4. Speed drills for mental reflexes. Just like athletes do physical drills, you can do mental drills to train your brain for faster decision-making. Here are some practical ones. 60-second decision sprints. Take a random scenario, e.g., your flight is canceled last minute. What do you do? Then, give yourself 60 seconds to make a plan. No hesitation, no overthinking. Do this daily with different scenarios: personal, financial, ethical, practical. Over time, your brain will build reflexive clarity under pressure. Quick-fire questioning. Pick a topic and list 5 questions about it in under 2 minutes. This forces your brain to explore quickly and thoroughly. Example. Topic: remote work challenges. What are the biggest productivity obstacles? How do teams build trust remotely? What tools solve collaboration issues? What mindset shifts are needed? What does remote leadership look like? Fast, focused, valuable. Mental shortcuts that don't compromise quality. Sometimes you don't have time to dig deep. You need a shortcut that's smart, not sloppy. These mental models help. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is often the right one. When overanalyzing, ask, what's the most obvious, logical reason this is happening? Use this to cut through unnecessary complexity. First principles thinking. Break things down to fundamental truths, then reason up. Elon Musk uses this constantly. Instead of thinking, electric cars are too expensive, he asks, what are the basic components? How much do they cost? Can we make them cheaper? Apply this to rethink any assumption. The 80-20 rule, Pareto principle. 80% of results come from 20% of causes. When overwhelmed, ask, what are the few actions that will solve most of this problem? Prioritize high-leverage moves. How to stop overthinking without rushing. Fast thinking isn't just about speed. It's about knowing when to stop thinking. Overthinking is a hidden time thief. It drains energy, clouds judgment, and leads to second-guessing. Here's how to fight it. 1. Set a time limit. Give yourself 10 minutes to decide. Use a timer, stick to it. Your brain will adapt to time constraints and get better at quick, quality judgment. 2. Use a decision filter. Ask, is this reversible? What's the worst case? Will I care in a year? If the answer shows low risk or reversibility, just decide and move on. 3. Shift to action. Overthinking often comes from staying in your head too long. Write something, say something, do something. Motion ends mental loops. Real-life example, making a decision in 2 minutes. Let's say you're offered a job. It's a pay raise, but the environment is unfamiliar and you're nervous. You have to reply in 2 minutes. Here's a rapid reasoning breakdown. Chunk the decision. Money, culture, long-term potential. Spot the pattern. Have you made similar decisions before? What happened? Mind map. What are the pros and cons under each chunk? Apply filters. Is this a reversible decision? What's the worst case? Does it align with my goals? Use Occam's razor. If the only reason you're saying no is fear of change, that may not be valid. Within 2 minutes, you've processed a complex decision with clarity and control. That's rapid reasoning. Practice makes permanent. Like any skill, mental speed and clarity are built through reps. If you wait until a crisis hits to practice thinking fast, you'll panic. But if you train daily, even with simple, fun challenges, you'll build confidence and agility. Daily challenge ideas. Solve riddles or logic puzzles. Journal quick answers to random prompts. Limit decision time for small things, such as what to eat, what to wear. Watch debates and pause to guess each speaker's next move. Every time you train, your brain becomes faster, sharper, and calmer under pressure.
Final words. Move fast, think smart. In a world of noise, delay, and indecision, rapid reasoning is a superpower. It means you make decisions when others freeze. You find clarity when others get lost in overthinking. You stay flexible, focused, and mentally sharp even under pressure. But here's the truth. Speed is useless without direction. So don't just move fast, move with purpose. Train your brain to think in systems. Use tools, apply models, ask better questions, and then trust yourself to act. Because the goal isn't just to think faster, it's to think better faster.